right. Try now.
All right.
Frank, are you calling us to order?
I think I can. Did we want it? We'll take your question after we call the order. Is that all right?
That's right. You go ahead. I'm putting it in the chat.
All right. Anyway, meeting is called to order. And a funny thing happened on our last in-person meeting. Well, maybe it wasn't so funny. 2.5 years ago. We had a pandemic. So here we are, live and in person. And I apologize for misspelling the Bozeman Center there. I guess there's no E in it. So I was thinking of Bozeman, Montana.
No E.
No E. Anyway, I wanted to welcome those who attended in person. Actually, in order to get to a quorum, there are actually also give a quick chair report as part of our call to order. And currently, I am here as acting chair because I was your vice chair, and Mary, who was the official chair, has resigned her chairmanship, right? And therefore, I'm acting, and John is acting as vice chair. We expect to be appointed chair and vice chair at the September board meeting, county board meeting. So in this, just so it's clear, our capacity, that we didn't pull an Al Haig and say I'm in charge. Okay. Just to try to provide the context for why I'm leading the meeting today. Anyhow, and I think it was announced that was going to happen. Anyway, as we started discussing before the meeting was called to order, we have 2 vacancies now. Mary Cornell, who is going to finish up her doctorate, and now, late breaking news this week, I guess it was this week, Mike Carlton has resigned. That gives us 2 vacancies. We had one applicant who is, want to introduce Laura Gross, who is here live and in person. She attended, I think, the June meeting attended, and she has applied, and John and I talked with her, and we recommended that she be appointed. So hopefully we'll see if that happens. But we want to welcome you here tonight for sure, and hopefully we'll welcome you for the future. Just a couple of other quick housekeeping matters. Website, Angela reports that I think it's getting cleaned up. It's still a work in progress. The Tech Commission website. But Angela Easterwood has been working to help get things ship-shape there, and I think we're making good progress on that. I don't know if there's anything more you want to add to that, Angela, if you hear this?
No, I just got the current information on today as far as the meeting location and the time, that it's not virtual. So I removed the link from the website so visitors couldn't.
Okay. Good. So I think that means we're not being, or there's not the opportunity for the public to live stream it. Not tonight, but hopefully if we adopt our policy, then we'll be able to do that going forward in September, right? Okay, so.
That's about it, but I'm working on adding the recordings, agenda, and minutes from previous meetings.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Angela. And then, just give you a fair warning now, the September meeting for right now, it's going to be a physical in-person meeting. We'll see if we adopt the policy, whether then it can actually be hybrid, but the next meeting would be scheduled for Wednesday, September 28th, and it will be held here at Suite 511C at the Bozeman, BOZMAN Center at 2100 Clarendon Boulevard. And it will be at 7:30 p.m. So we're going back to our long time 7:30 p.m. Start time for in-person meetings. And let's see, Jackie has a question. What is the current relationship between the county and Arlington Independent Media? Actually, Barry, you may be able to give a better answer to that. I'll defer you on that.
To be honest with you, I do not have a current update.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Use has been a little in the past few months.
Right, I mean, it still receives funding from the county. That, I think that's, so basically it is a contract, contractor basically, kind of.
It may be one of those things at some point, we want to reach out to them to invite them to come up and update.
Yes, I think that was something that we might look to you to do that, because I think it is something we talked about and wanted to.
At one time I was on the board.
Right, no, so do you have any?
That's why I raised it, is we haven't, the reason I raised the question is we haven't heard from them in a while, and I know that there was a real transition in terms of level of funding and so on, and so there were questions about how it was going to operate. And so it's been a while, and I thought we should maybe next time get a status update.
Okay.
My only affiliation with AIM right now is this as a
Member, right, but not an officer.
That's right.
Okay, very good.
And there has been a significant change in personnel, so I do not know personally.
I can't really hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, so maybe we just have one. Okay, all
Okay.
right, so there's been a change, but yes, we'll look for a future meeting to try to get an update on status.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want to scrunch a little better. All right.
Do you have any public comment?
Is there any, actually, we have some members of the, I think, members of the public
No.
are there in the waiting. Well, no, Louise and Kevin are both. Claudia is, I think, is Claudia with?
But if
Claudia
this
is the
isn't,
county staff.
if this is
Right, that's what I thought.
If this isn't a hybrid meeting, are we allowed to accept comment from the public out from the virtual?
I think real accept it.
I'm not a parliamentarian, but I would say as long as it's not official business.
Business, right.
I think you'll be okay.
I think so. Yeah, that's, okay. Any, Louise, Kevin, any comment?
Nope.
Nothing from me.
All right, good. One of our agenda items for this evening is actually sort of plan out the coming year. And I think we may be getting to the point where we may want to get a regular report from both of you, possibly, and also I think from Richard on VTS as far as where we are on the renewal process.
Okay.
It may be just it's in the works, but but as we get closer, we know that we do have at least some role in that. So we will. So that is something we may be putting on our calendar on a regular basis. All right. I think that any other public comment? I guess Laura, you can comment.
No, I'm good, thank you.
That's good. That's probably a good plan for the time being. Anyway, that brings us to item number 3, our electronic meeting policy, which I did the best as I could to plug and chug. Template was provided it's been passed on by the county attorney, so it meets the requirements of the Virginia law, which takes effect September 1st. I'm not sure that there's any reason to debate it, but I will entertain motions to adopt, I think.
I'll move that we adopt the electronic meeting policy that was distributed on the meeting invite.
Second. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Any abstentions? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, it looks like it carries. Motion carries.
6-0.
Okay, let the record, all right, okay, so this means that we're entering the brave new world of the Virginia law, and hopefully there will be a new and improved Virginia law at some point in the future. But right now, this is what we have to abide by as far as both in person and I guess we can do hybrid and we can do all virtual up to 25%, or 2 meetings or 25%, whichever is greater. And since we have 11 meetings, I think you round to the next hole. So I think that means we get 3 for the year. We get 3 for the year. Maybe, yes, Phil.
Is there something concrete that we can do in collaboration with other commissions to challenge this law on behalf of Arlington?
So that's agenda topic number 4 for tonight's meeting, which is the legislative priorities and recommendations. I pulled the legislative priorities from last year from both the board report on the initial package as to that was the first step is that the first official step is that the county staff makes a recommendation to the board on what the package should include and asked to advertise that package to the public. They officially advertise that package to the public, and then on the next board meeting, they adopt the package with whatever adjustments were made over the intervening months. Before that first recommendation, the staff work with the public and commissions to formulate and solicit what recommendations should be. I think we've discussed several ideas for legislative recommendations over the past years. And so one of the recommendations last year, if you look in the board report, was on virtual meetings. So I think we would be well within our mission to make a further recommendation this year to modify the law to be more liberal.
I was thinking there's strength in numbers.
Yes.
The informal communication that could take place that
I
could
think,
develop consensus on some actual words.
yeah, so I think it sounds like many commissions are going to make the same recommendation. So I would be shocked if it doesn't go up. So I think if you want to liaise or someone wants to liaise with other commissions to unify on a set of language, that might be valuable. But if we write our own words and everyone writes their own words and submits it to staff, then I think staff will likely make that recommendation.
Very good.
And we'll reach out to our board liaison to see if they're, what the thinking is on the board at this point, if you can share that with us, and as well as if he hears what he's hearing from other commissions as well. So we'll try to see what we can find out on that.
So with the current policy now, up to 25% means we could be hybrid, meaning you could be in person 2 and go hybrid 1 for the rest of the year. Basically, every third meeting.
Yeah, it says not to do it consecutively,
Right.
Fully virtual. There's a lot of
Nuances.
nuances, and then there's the difference between the commission's meetings and then individuals' participations. There's like 3 different scenarios under which you can, as a commissioner, participate virtually. One of them is for personal reasons, and you've got up to 25%.
The same is 2 or 20, 2 or
Right.
25%.
For your personal issues. Then there's another one for medical reasons, which I
That counts
don't
as the
think
25%.
I don't think that has a limit on it the way I read it.
That's the way I read it too. But
But you have to bring a note in from your doctor.
So my question, I have my hand up for a while. My question is exactly that. What are the criteria? Is there a form, and how do I apply for a medical condition? Because I do not expect to be able to attend in person for a while. Due to, I'll be open. I have multiple things, but the reason why I'm not coming is because I'm not meeting in small rooms. I'm still very seriously avoiding COVID, so I don't go to group meetings. I have gone out. I eat outside sometimes, but in general, like I didn't go to the fair, and I'm not going to, I don't go to any of these group things. So, and I can, I could get documentation as to why I have conditions that make that advisable, but what do I have to do, and to whom do I have to send it, and what do I have to disclose about my medical conditions to get this approved?
So I haven't seen any supplementary guidance from either the county attorney or in the law. I haven't really been looking that hard, but I take it to read it on its face which basically says that, let's
So
see.
I'll give you the staff guidance
Right.
on this, just to hopefully make it a little easier. If you agree as the chair that she has a medical exemption,
Right.
that's all I need at the moment.
And it just needs to be reflected in the minutes.
In the minutes, Jackie Snelling, remote participation due to
Medical, right,
and
It's a location.
where she is.
right.
From
You
her
do need
home.
to provide your location as well, Jackie.
So if you
I don't mind
document
that.
that in minutes, I don't need to know why. It's none of our business
Right.
what the medical issue is. Trust each other that there's a medical reason, we document.
Right.
Just be prepared as this evolves, the county attorney may give us different guidance.
Right.
But at this moment, it is follow these rules as closely as you can.
So,
And I read it the same
So
way.
I don't have anything in writing from a doctor. I mean, I've discussed it with my doctor and it does change over time. And
Yeah.
my doctor said this is reasonable practice under the
Yeah.
circumstances.
And I think as long as you and Frank
Right.
agree that it's reasonable
Right.
practice, we will.
So all I
Take
need
you
to
at
do
your
is
word.
send Frank a note saying, until further notice, I will be participating remotely from my home and the address due to medical conditions. That's all I need.
yes, I think that should be
I think
sufficient.
so.
Yeah, as opposed to doing it for each meeting. It seems to me that,
As long as it gets into the minutes for each meeting,
right,
I think you're okay.
I think so. Okay, so let's go with the blanket for starters. And then if we get additional guidance from the county, then we'll change. But in the meantime, that's what we'll do.
Someone
Yes,
with a
Kip.
medical exemption, like
Right.
Jackie, they'll have full participating rights in the meeting.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay, so, but it's reasonable and logical that in this COVID pandemic environment we're in, that anyone has a reasonable concern about being in person,
Correct.
like me.
Yes.
right,
So I'll vote for sitting out and dialing it too.
right.
Okay.
But
I mean, is that simple? Is it that, I mean, am I
but-
missing something?
But I think, but I think, do we still have to have a physical forum?
I don't think so.
That I do not have clear.
Yeah. Right.
So-
I'll play it by ear, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
if it-
right.
you know, if I,
But generally speaking, it is not our job or place to judge a medical exemption.
Okay.
Right.
That is
That's
between
encouraging.
you and your doctor, and we take people on their word.
it doesn't even have to be a doctor. It can be like, concerned about the pandemic environment we're in,
Well,
right?
in this day and age, a lot of people have very legitimate personal medical reasons or health-related reasons why they still may have concern in group gatherings, which are totally legitimate.
Right.
No, that's true, but that's a level above the fact that I'm just concerned about the pandemic.
Well, for the pandemic, they're pretty well listed by the CDC for people over a certain age with particular conditions. They still are recommending caution.
So the way that I read the policy, there's no difference in quorum or participation if you are virtually participating under one of these
Right.
circumstances.
Okay. Cool.
But Arlington County government has declared that
But,
the emergency is over. with regard to COVID.
So one of the clauses in the law is that none of these limits apply to meetings held virtually under a state of emergency declared by the governor, which there's a specific exemption in the open meeting law before the pandemic that said you don't have to meet in person under the state of emergency. So that is a declaration that the governor has the authority to make under law.
That was the trigger for this. End of the state of emergency at the Commonwealth level took us back to full-time in-person participation. So this was their way to give some measure of virtual participation. While imperfect, it was a step towards hybrid meeting.
I guess we're gonna play it by,
Yes.
I think just read
Yeah.
the policy. It's you know,
And I will be in
nuanced.
touch for sure as I get guidance from county attorneys. All, or if we will be talking about it in our legislation as well. Find the hybrid meeting valuable from a comment and engagement perspective.
Right.
So,
and that's been our experience with
yes,
this commission.
it's every board, every commission I talk to is on about this, and for once, the Commonwealth is not. So
Right.
it's an unusual
Yeah, it is.
situation.
Yeah, it is. And hopefully that will
Yeah,
change.
I'm new to Virginia, so.
That's it. All right, so this, okay, so that's, I guess, so we want greater flexibility for all virtual meetings.
Yeah.
And that will be part of one of our legislative asks.
Yeah, so I think the goal for the agenda item tonight on the legislative front was to identify what recommendations we'd like to make and who is going to be interested in drafting language for our submission in September. So Phil, do you want to draft the
With regard to liberalizing
the virtual meetings?
Virtual meetings.
And again, I pulled down the board report specifically to provide examples of what went forward last year. It's not like, amend section, chapter 32, section 5, paragraph C to strike this and say that. It's very general, plain English language, like here's a thing that we'd like to make better, kind of stuff.
All right, and I think one of the other items was the FedRAMP, state ramp.
We had posed a question to staff, Richard, about the looking at shared accountability risk management programs like FedRAMP or state ramp, and if the county had looked into it, and if not, or if so, were there any impediments to the county joining such a program, under the assumption that there are impediments and that there might be legislative action needed by the Commonwealth to either create some sort of program, join some sort of program, or enable municipalities to join some sort of program.
Our understanding is we're allowed to buy into a vendor that supports those programs or
Right.
follows those programs. It's a choice that we have to make on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes there's higher cost involved or a different level of service like GovCloud versus Cloud.
Right.
So it is a case-by-case decision, but I'm not aware of an impediment that prevents us.
But there is no such program that the Commonwealth
Not yet.
supports.
They are not state grant members yet. So
Okay.
it's certainly worth pursuing, like, hey, this is a good thing the Commonwealth should do.
Okay.
But whether it's an impediment kind of remains to be seen.
Sure.
We're allowed to contract for those.
Right. Okay. So really, the absence of the program, we could advocate for the creation of the program. This is kind of one of the things I was thinking about was the FedRAMP program at the federal level has really changed agencies' ability to adopt cloud services much more rapidly while doing what they need to be doing from a cybersecurity standpoint, but nothing really exists like that for municipalities who have even fewer resources.
I thought that's what state ramp is.
So state ramp is trying to be that, but it's a little bit nascent. There's really, I think it's started by Arizona, and there seems to be, last time I looked, maybe 6 months ago, there's only maybe one other state that had joined. So are they there? Is that the program? Like
Okay, I got
Virginia's pretty advanced. Like, I don't know that we want to advocate joining state ramp specifically,
Right.
but that the Commonwealth look at either joining or creating a similar type program to support its municipalities' cyber posture and cloud adoption. I'd be happy to draft that up if other people are supportive of that as a recommendation.
Should we take, I guess, I'll entertain motion to make that one of our recommendations.
I was thinking that we
Or
make
you want
the
to keep moving for- okay.
formal motion in September.
September, right, okay.
Right now,
so
just kind of
okay,
discussing
just get the
workshopping
sense.
some topics.
Okay, sure. Is any, we generally support this notion of sort of creating a state ramp like, if legislation is needed to have Virginia basically make the recommendation that Virginia, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Everybody in favor? All right, I don't think we need to
Cool.
take a formal vote, but, just.
I'll draft that one.
Along those lines too, the incubator that was the guy presented by Stafford. that
Yeah.
Is the equivalent federally, ATAR, Advanced Technology Academic Research Center. And, there might be some lessons learned from ATAR that would be useful for this Stafford program. I don't know the synergism necessarily, but it is. And I'm a member of ATARC, so
Oh.
they can I can get all the info ATARC needs, or pass that to the right people.
All
I'm
right.
surprised he didn't mention it. And I'm kind of digressing, but
Sure. I mean, would that be sort of I guess maybe a separate?
it is separate.
Separate
but,
app.
but they do talk about, zero trust and all these other
Right.
systems that are useful.
I was thinking something similar with the Clarendon Innovation Zone project, where the county was able to partner with like the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative, which is Commonwealth funded like cyber experts at the various different universities. And so I think if there's something that already exists, I think our recommendation would be continue to support it and expand it.
Yeah.
So do you want to draft something like that up for the Center for?
I'd like to explore that a little more with you.
Okay.
I understand. Or we can talk about it now.
Yeah, I think if you had a chance to look at the recommendations that from last year, they're like,
So, question,
Yes.
are we under any state restriction right now that prevents us from doing what we might like to do with regard to Connect Arlington or any other municipal network that we can?
substantial.
Yeah.
Depends on who you ask.
Right.
So one of the top 2 or 3 that come to mind, and are they candidates for offering up as a legislative initiative priority?
So Connect Arlington is allowed to serve fairly small niche at the moment. We have our municipal buildings connected. We offer Wi-Fi to the community. We are not allowed to engage in any sort of commercial activity.
You were, I thought you just had to terminate in the county.
And I may be speaking out of turn exactly on what the legal limit is, because I'm not the county attorney. But there are limits on what type of commercial.
Oh, yes, that's different from that.
And
So
Right.
we have evaluated, and I think even this group has talked about the wireless authority.
Yeah.
broadband authority.
Wireless.
Broadband authority, thank you. A broadband authority that would allow Connect ways, even style relationships. There are a lot
I'm
of.
sorry, could you speak up?
Sorry, there are a lot of things that have been proposed over the years, but most of it is a lack of provision in the enabling acts for both to do many creative things. So outside of that enabling act, we do have the Broadband Authority Act that would give us that, but that also is a heavy lift for the county. There's a lot of setup in building that from a people infrastructure. So there's numerous things that have been proposed, but for the most part, they're all heavy lifts or not allowed in the law.
Right.
Aren't there some communities in Virginia that already have much broader authority to operate a municipal network commercially?
I think they have authority. I
They've
think
created
Newport
a
News-
separate authorities.
Yeah.
Right. They've created that broadband authority organization, then takes over the management of that fiber optic and provides services. And done as a quasi-government.
So
We
we could
have
do
not
what they do
created
if we had the broadband authority.
Yes, correct.
And there is an ongoing feasibility study
Yes.
on that by the county.
There, it is currently being studied. I don't have a date when that will be done, but there will be a report about what the options are and how it would work.
At DTS level, is there sympathy for creating a broadband authority, or can you say what the
there
drift
has
is?
been, yeah, there has been sympathy for doing it. The question is the people. To create a broadband authority, you're hiring a lot of people. It's a big lift. You have to provide customer service to your end customer, right?
Maintaining that fiber system.
Yeah.
Is a heavy lift.
Heavy
Right.
lift.
And I think you can start or authorize the authority without actually operating. too,
Yeah,
Which there are a
yeah.
number of these sort of,
So there's the legislative solution and then there's the operational. solution,
right.
So
Yeah, so
the county could create the authority, but then you have to fund it and get people working. It's a big change.
and how you want, what you want to do with it too. So I mean, there is, a lot involved.
The assessment of ARL Fiber, the main advocacy organization on this, was that changing the law to allow municipalities to do this was a non-starter in the General Assembly because this other avenue existed. That basically, if you wanted to do this, you have this other avenue, so just use that.
Yes.
So I don't think it's appropriate for the legislative
Understood.
package, but
So it's sort of our plate
Well-
to act on this.
I wouldn't say it's inappropriate for your legislative package, only because it comes up every year in every session. There is a push to amend the Enabling Act for local governments to make broadband like garbage and snow removal and water. Like it gets inserted into that part of the Enabling Act by some legislator, and then it gets cut out in the
Right.
process. But it does come up in every session.
And we were told that it would be, well, by the legislative liaison, that it would be, you'd really need to build coalitions with other, other municipalities. But yeah, so that we can, make it part of our recommendation again. Obviously, we have this.
We have staff conducting the study, and they, if I recall correctly,
and
It's
they,
an internal study, that I'm trying to consult it out.
there are some consultants.
Yeah, they're called, two different consultants. Yeah.
Two more.
I do not
so
I think
for the,
have.
I'm
For
gonna
the-
There's been a
talk
lot
to
of
them.
written communication about it, but it's not in my head.
so for the priorities for the upcoming year, I think the results of that study and our advice to the board about what to do with it will be a hot topic. So we want to make sure we're prepared for that. But
When do we get that?
we
When
don't know
is
yet.
this-
We don't know yet, Jackie. We don't know when.
We don't have a date for when it's going to be delivered?
We do not.
I do not either.
So Kevin, I'll throw something on here for us to work generally supporting of the Center for Information or the Innovative Technology, the CIT in Stafford, and support for the
Sure.
Commonwealth Cyber Initiative and those types of resources being
Okay.
maintained and available to municipalities.
Yeah, but I have to flesh it out some more, but yeah.
Sure.
I didn't even understand how the whole Clarendon initiative tied in with
Well,
the,
it was just my experience on it.
You've got your hands in the middle of it.
Seeing the value of the resources that were coming from the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative. Like, I didn't even know that resource exists. So that's great that it's out there at state. It's Commonwealth funded, so.
And there is a lot of federal money that's coming for expanding broadband. And I think every state has put in quite a few different federal programs. Awesome.
I'm collecting one of my duties. Keep an eye on that.
Okay, Jonathan, okay.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on something here, Frank. We're not endorsing the idea of asking the legislature.
No, we're not endorsing any.
Allow me to offer the
technology. Is
broadband
that
service. Are we?
Kind of cut in and out, John.
Well, just the idea. Yeah, the idea. There's a law in the books that says municipalities can't offer broadband service, and that's something we're not taking on here, right? I mean, if somebody compared broadband to water and other utilities that are basically a natural monopoly for the city, and unlike water, Arlington has a number of choices of broadband providers that are actually pretty darn good. I've got Fios. I mean, a lot of parts, most of the city is one of the best served in the country, like Comcast or Verizon or other providers. I mean, it's just not something we're doing here in Arlington, of all places, of all the issues that we have. When we're well served in this competition, doesn't seem like a good use of taxpayer resources to me.
So I'm putting a legislative agenda item.
Yeah, Richard was, Jonathan, if I could clarify, Richard was pointing out that some people do make that legislative recommendation. So should we want to support that, we could. I think the sense in the room is that that's not needed due to the other avenue. That would at least be my position.
Okay, great. Yeah, there may be some parts of the state where it makes sense, but Arlington isn't one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
no-
you, Jonathan. I think that's.
Yeah, no disagreement in the room.
You didn't get to the one I thought was going to be top of the list,
Well, what is it, Jackie?
privacy.
What would we like to make a
I
recommendation?
thought, well, I don't know what it is because I thought that was one of the things we wanted to be doing was looking at the privacy law and having some consideration of if there are changes to it, what would we like to see as opposed to reacting to things that are likely to be introduced or may be introduced. So it's really a better understanding of where we fit with the current privacy law. And we certainly have made recommendations on privacy. So the question is, where do those fit with respect to any legislative initiative? And do any of those require any legislation to implement? I don't know the answer.
I mean, I guess, since Virginia is one of a handful of states that's already adopted a comprehensive data privacy law, I'm not sure. And there's significant federal legislation which may, or at this point, probably not get adopted this session. And we've got some of the federal agencies that are getting into the Federal Trade Commission, for example, is getting into the act as well. So I'm not, I think we could take a look at it. I'm just not aware of what we would advocate, or don't know what we would want to advocate at this.
Well, I guess part of it was a better understanding of how our recommendations fit in the current legislation, which we really did not do a detailed analysis of previously, and whether or not any of I don't know the answer, but if there's anything that we're recommending that is not already in the legislation, then there is the question of whether it requires it. I mean, there's number one, are there things required there that we're not doing? But then the second one is, are there things we're recommending that might need permission in there? And I don't know the answer.
So for my read, Jackie, most of our privacy recommendations have been focused on Arlington County government, and
Yes.
I think we haven't explored the issue enough to know whether there's legislative impediments to Arlington County taking action at the municipal level. And I think there's a lot of things that we've recommended that almost certainly do not require any legislative action at the state level.
That's true. All right, I just thought it was one that we had previously said we wanted to discuss, but maybe not.
I mean, if there's something there, I'm open for it, because I think privacy is going to remain a major topic.
I didn't have one. I really thought it had come up in our previous discussions, so maybe I'm in error on that.
Well, if you think of something in between here and
At the Civic Federation, our legislative committee is looking at that law. Their perspective is a little bit different than ours because their perspective is a civil rights perspective. So they're looking at it from that point of view. And there are some things where, for example, it's required FOIAs to get information about things that might be information that might be collected that might be considered private. And so one of the things that people are interested in is some way where you don't have to pay $200 or $300 to find out what what private information might be retained, for example. And so that's the kind of thing that they're looking at.
yeah, I think the law that Virginia passed was mostly focused on regulation of private data brokers.
Yes.
From a civil rights perspective, I think one of our recommendations was better regulation of an oversight of surveillance technology employed by the county government.
Yes, what we're collecting and how long we keep it and who gets it and that kind of stuff.
But again, I think the county's fully empowered to do that without any additional state legislation.
Rather than following the FOIA law. Okay, that's a possibility. Yes, they certainly can. They keep going back to the FOIA law.
Is there any other legislative recommendations that we've had in the past that we want to renew? I think we had, I can't even remember, to be honest with you. Anyone else recall anything?
Yeah, I can't.
We've not had great success.
Doesn't mean we go keep trying.
That's right. Yeah, I can't think of any that are ripe for resurrection.
Okay. I mean, I think we'd be comfortable if people think of something between here and September, drafting it, sending it around and bringing it to the meeting for discussion and potential adoption.
Sure. Yeah, I think we have time. I think we do have time to do that. So yeah, so if anybody comes up with any that they want to be considered further, yeah, circulate it to the body of the whole here.
Okay, that covers off on our legislative
Legislative,
priorities.
I guess unless anybody has any right now that they want. All right, well, yep. On to Tech Commission planning. Coming year. I think we had some discussions on this and you provided a roadmap. On a couple of topics that we have some evergreen items, which is obviously legislative recommendations are one, and we're coming upon that time. Budget's another that we do, and that's coming later in the year. And then we have some topics that we, I think, have discussed in the past, and I think want to keep on our plate. So privacy, for example, which we just talked about, digital equity, which gets into the broadband authority, municipal broadband, open data, and then also some of the issues related, smart city issues, which we've been covering over the years, and then as they now apply to national landing too. So
yeah,
I think those are some of the broad topics. I think that I think John and I have discussed are relevant to us to discuss. We're open to any others that you may.
There was a
Or
pilot.
discussion on this.
There was a pilot on Columbia Pike, bypass technology for access.
Well, the
Yeah.
CBRS, you're talking the
Yeah,
wireless.
yeah, yeah.
The,
They were going to give us an update on that.
Richard Scott, he might be able to.
It's not coming.
But I mean, with that, we can put that on the agenda.
CBRS. So I think all the network stuff, right? So to Jonathan's point earlier, right? There's a lot of competing
Technologies.
ways to
Yeah.
get broadband speed internet to wherever you're at, right?
Right. Well, this isn't legislative agenda. This is just.
Right, for our topics.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah. So to me, like the feasibility study, which I'm sympathetic to the idea that this might change things, but I also don't know enough about the details to really fully buy in. So all of the different like broadband stuff, like the CBRS stuff
Yeah.
that you're talking about, I think we should tackle as a whole thing, right?
In the
Yeah,
past,
well,
we've had
and-
someone give us
and
a
it's-
speech about it, came in.
Right,
talked
right.
about-
Actually,
and
it's
that
my
was specific
understanding.
to that policy, they were gonna do the effectiveness, cost, all that,
Right,
and pitch it. And we did this, we studied for 9 months. This is what we got.
right, where we are, yes,
Yeah.
we
That-
may
where we're
want
at.
to follow
I
up
mean, I
on
just,
that.
I don't.
I think
being
we
a
had
big.
discussed that we wanted to try to get and I know Mary reached out to try to get an update on the
Yeah.
whole JBG, AT&T Smart City platform for national landing.
Right.
And so we did, so I think this sort of maybe fits in, well, that's
Okay,
a specific one, but
I mean, I get
obviously
it.
if we want to know how Smart City will
basket.
apply
Falls
to
in
the
the same
whole.
basket as
Right.
what
Some
you're
of the
talking
smart
about.
city
But this is something specific study. They were gonna come
Yeah.
marching and give us
Right,
a
right.
dog and pony show about it.
And I
how
do
it
know
works.
that actually, I believe JBG actually acquired CBRS spectrum to use in the national land.
Oh, okay.
area
So you're
as
saying
part
it's
of
more
that
related.
platform. So
I didn't
they-
realize
they
it was that
do tie
related.
together, yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize
So, I
that.
mean, but that won't be, the CBRS that was used to provide broadband to students in the Columbia Pike was, the county was using that because there are some CBRS frequencies that are basically in the public domain, and there are those that you can get more protected rights where you basically, at auction, you acquire
Right, okay.
acquire the license rights. So,
Yeah, I think that would be a great update.
Yeah,
Topic.
that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not, half part of one meeting, 15 minutes.
right, but I think they sort of, there's intersectionality.
Oh, I
they
get
overlap.
that too.
Yeah,
Now
they
that
do
you explained
overlap,
it.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And another thing, I've been providing updates on fixed wireless access and how 5G is being used by Verizon and T-Mobile as basically still a relatively small share in the broadband service. I think I just saw a study, maybe around 3%, but it's one of the fastest growing.
Right.
And it is, again, another competitor. I think the speeds that you're able to achieve with 5G, make it, make
Right.
it competitive.
Technologically.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So anyway, so I think that all ties into the digital equity. We were talking about the CBRS and
Yes.
how it was used in the Columbia Pike area. I think at one point I think you were.
There was a study done and they gave us a great presentation saying they're initiating the study and it'd be like for 9 months or a year and they come back and give us an update on the,
Okay.
on the progress.
Yeah.
Send me a.
Is it still being used or?
I do not know.
No, yeah.
But if you send me, add it to a list of questions, and I'll find out, because I know who
Okay.
did that. I know the person,
Yeah.
so I can find out.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think especially like exploring all the various different networks that are available, different technologies, and thinking about it holistically will help us make a better recommendation of the board on whatever the outcome of the municipal broadband feasibility study is, right?
Okay. Does it tie into that, the municipal broadband feasibility study?
Well, so there's,
Are they looking, is that
no,
part of the
they're
study?
they're not.
Oh,
My
okay.
point is, I think
They
as a
should.
commission, we need to take a broader view
Right.
of what the policy should
Pull all the
be.
pieces together.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there is a survey that's gone out, right? Was that sent by the county on the broadband?
I'm not aware how that survey is being done.
Done, yeah. I'm not sure if that's by the contractors or if
It
that's,
could be by the contractors or by CPA,
yeah, I think it might be.
outside my department.
Yeah, okay, all right, I'm gonna take another, I think I received,
Okay.
I think there was a broad dissemination of that, trying to encourage people to do it and to do it, I think. So I'll take a further look. I think I received some communications on that, so I'm just I think my role as a citizen, not as a member of this body. I think one of the other issues related to digital equity, we had concerns about affordability, and there are a number of federal programs, which I've also been reporting on, that have tried to bridge that gap. So, so I guess we can. I think it sort of needs to all tie together there.
Other topics. Then you reminded me, Frank, about the cable franchise renewals, obviously.
Right, that
That's
needs to be on. Yeah.
needs to be on the list.
Yes, I've got 2 additional suggestions. First is comprehensive IT plan. And the second is cybersecurity.
That's the digital planning element that we've asked.
No, not digital,
Sorry.
information technology.
Sure. The comprehensive IT plan that we've asked to be added to the element that we've asked to be added, suggested to be added to the
I
comprehensive.
don't care
plan.
where we put it, but we don't have one and we really want to.
Okay. And then cybersecurity.
And cybersecurity.
You want to expand on either of those?
No?
Okay, and I guess Arlington Independent Media too, I guess we ought to put that in there as
Jackie
well.
raised
That
that.
Jackie had to raise that. And then I think we may want to maybe talk about all the PEG channels again as well, right? I think we used to sort of have regular reports on that. And I know that county funds all three of them. The PEG channel, which PEG channels are public, educational, and governmental channels. So we have Arlington Independent Media, which is public access. We have the Arlington County ATV, Arlington TV, which provides coverage of the county meetings. And then the APS, the Arlington Public Schools, has its own channel. So those are the three so-called PEG channels. They receive funding from basically, I guess there's a communication, in lieu of a franchise fee, Commonwealth of Virginia collects a communications tax that then provides money back to county, and then a certain percentage of that goes to fund the PEG channels. Right?
There is, I don't know exactly how much money comes and goes. I don't see
Right.
that level of detail, but you're right. The communications
Right.
tax comes in, and then funding is provided to Arlington Television, government channels that are on the fourth floor here. The AIM, Arlington Independent Media, and then schools is just funded through schools.
Schools. Yeah.
They get their large grant from
Yeah.
property tax.
I thought they also got some of the
They have access to PEG
Right.
capital.
PEG cap, right,
Which is
which is only,
which is
right,
a
there's a
separate-
distinction between operating, right, so the operating comes from the schools, but
Yes.
they can get capital.
Capital
Right.
needs come from another pool. of
Rule,
money,
right.
Which you see on a cable bill as a per subscriber PEG charge. It's
Right.
$1, I think it's $1.68 right now. It might be $1.38, but per subscriber, there's a per month per subscriber charge that comes to us as dedicated capital that we preserve in capital, and we grants to AIM, rate eligible entity, the camera, video switcher.
All right. Yeah. Yes, folks.
You mentioned the schools. In previous years, county support of the schools with networking and other technology has been an open area for dialogue and improvement. Is that stable now, and are all the issues kind of handled and nothing more to look at, or?
I don't have an answer for you because it's outside my domain.
Okay.
I think when I talked to Jack about it, at least fairly recently, I think things, the relationship's still pretty good and stable. And the one thing, we did have a liaison from APS, Matt Smith, who you may recall.
Of course.
We just recently learned that Matt has retired from APS. So I don't know if you can we ask you to try to find out if there is a new APS, or is that what we should put that in writing too?
Yeah, we can add, just add it to the
Okay.
list of questions.
Okay,
And I can ask.
all right,
I cannot demand.
right,
Schools is a different organization.
Yes,
but I
yeah.
can certainly ask.
all right, yeah, I mean, that's. And also, I guess we'll ask you to maybe try to set up an introduction to the new CIO.
Yes. We can add that to the agenda for next.
Okay, I think that would be good. There is a new chief information officer for the county. Norrin? Is that-
Norrin,
Norrin.
the second, it's Norron.
And,
The second O is pronounced more like an E. Norrin,
right,
last name is Lee.
I think I sent that around, the announcement to you, and
Is Jack to have a staff in his new role?
I do not know. I know he's working with the county manager more closely, he's not working with DPS directly. But I don't know the contours of his move.
all right. Anything else? That could cover the busy year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Anyway, well, we'll try to, I think, John and I will try to make some sense out of all of that to keep us entertained.
Yeah. Be interested in the commissioner's feedback on priorities for these topics. I'll send out the notes
Yes.
that I took, get them lined up. Obviously, budget is a must-do. We have to have an opinion on the budget. So upcoming milestones for that are the county manager usually provides preliminary fiscal results and closeout recommendations in October for the FY22 year, which the county's fiscal year runs July through June. So that'll be the fiscal year close June 30th of 2022. And then the board makes final appropriation of that closeout funding in November. So Richard, I think what we would want to know leading up to the October board meeting is whether or not the manager intends to recommend any appropriations out of closeout funding that are germane to our purview. So we can have it. Yeah, Jack?
Yeah, on the whole broader category of budget, we sort of quickly looked at the CIP, but we're dealing with a 10-year CIP, and there are some things there where what we're going to want to do is track implementation, and there's some other things that were in the, not immediate year, but on the out years that I think we should take a little more time to look at before they come up in the 2-year review. So we have a little longer to look at the 2-year review, but I think since that's where most of the systems that we're interested in are being funded, we need to spend a lot more time looking at that CIP and following up on what we've purchased with it.
Yeah. When do you think would be a good time to ask for a briefing?
Well, it's recently approved, so we should be able to get a briefing, anytime we want at this point. I mean, I'm getting briefings on other parts of the CIP, and some of them are public briefings on hot topics like stormwater, for example, are all starting the week of September, first week in September. They're starting their public meetings on what the CIP is doing for those things. So I would think, relatively soon. I mean, it may not fit on the September agenda, but I think we need to know relatively soon what are the expenditures that we're doing that were approved by the CIP and the bond also, because the bond is not, of course, passed yet. That's what's coming in November. So better understanding of what it is we're going to be funding in our area through the CIP and the bond, I think would be good.
I think everyone in the room agrees with you.
Yeah.
And I think actually, I can't remember whether it was Jack or I think I may be remembering this from Aaron and Dipsum, but there's also a change of direction in what we're spending in the CIP for technology versus purchasing things versus leasing and some of the strategies for that. And so I would hope that would be part of that presentation, because there's a fairly, I think, important strategic change going forward about how we're funding our upgrades and staying current with new systems. So we'll want to, since we're doing it differently and funding it differently, we need to understand it to be to make our comments in the appropriate time frame.
I think isn't that really part of the cloud transition?
Yes.
lot of those,
Right.
a lot of the CFP programs for IT were new this year.
But even more than the cloud transition, because it also includes things that we used to purchase that we're now leasing. I mean, not just us, everybody. And what the relative costs of those things are. And then the other thing, I think, which we raised previously, but I don't know that we've ever gotten a position on, is what we do when we don't have expertise in-house, and how we do the whole analysis as the environment changes, how we determine and be a little more forward thinking about the types of expertise that we might want to be bringing in-house versus contracting for, because that whole line of when you develop expertise through contracts and what that does to your flexibility is very important as we get more and more rapid changes in systems. You know, having in-house expertise to advise you is pretty important on some of these things. So it's really personnel, but it's personnel combined with what it is we're envisioning our strategy is for providing those services and how the services are changing. Did I say that right, Richard?
You did.
All right.
Any other comments on timing for budget briefings and topics that we want to get on the agenda?
I would love to hear always from economic development. It's been quite a while.
Right, and I think that really does relate to the whole national. I think they were instrumental in the national landing dark fiber deal. So I think that, yeah, so maybe that's, I know we're looking to maybe get somebody from JBG to talk about it, but maybe we can also get somebody from economic development.
You may wait just a touch
Good.
on AED.
Okay.
They're going through a leadership change.
Right.
They have not announced the next director of development. I don't know if they've identified the person. So maybe some time before the next person's installed in that position, we'll have an opinion. At
Okay.
the moment, we have an interim.
All right, good. No,
A little bit
thanks.
later in the year for that.
Yeah. All right, we have any other input on priorities or timing? All right, I think we can move on to legislative update. Oh, you still get to hear from me on that. There's Frank. Yes, okay. Let's see. I started writing these down a couple months ago, so I had to refresh myself. All right, so the FCC and the Institute of Museum and Library Services has signed a memorandum of understanding to jointly promote public awareness of federal funding opportunities, broadband, and the availability of affordable broadband programs in light of the significant role libraries play in promoting digital access and inclusion. So, so I don't know if our library, I'm sure the libraries may be aware of that, but they're being asked to help promote these affordability programs, among others. The FCC has ordered phone companies to stop carrying traffic regarding a known robocall scam marketing auto warranties. So those auto warranties, they've actually asked the phone companies to stop carrying those calls. FCC Chair Jessica Rosenworcel has launched an investigation into the data privacy practices of 15 top mobile carriers, data retention and data privacy policies. So that would include AT&T, Verizon, and in fact, Comcast with its MVNO wireless services is included, and T-Mobile are those who were asked. So they're asking about their data data privacy policies. And among the data the FCC wants, geolocation data, how long it's retained, how long, if subs cannot, data deletion, how the geolocation data is safeguarded, and whether subs are notified when their geolocation data is shared. So the FCC is digging into a lot of data privacy issues with the cellular companies, the mobile carriers. A forthcoming White House cybersecurity strategy will likely project a stronger federal role to safeguard digital infrastructure and will compel industry to do more to prevent U.S. adversaries from hacking critical networks. Let's see. And starting on July 1st, Virginia state agencies are required to report certain cybersecurity incidents to the Virginia Fusion Intelligence Center within 24 hours. The Intelligence Center was created by a partnership between Virginia State Police and the Department of Emergency Management. FCC Chair Jessica Rosenworcel is circulating a notice of inquiry that proposes that broadband speed definition be increased from the current 25 megabits per second, 3 megabits per second, increase it to 100 megabits per second and 20 megabits per second upload download speeds. And the longer term national goal proposal is 1 gigabit per second, 500 megabit per second downstream, upstream. The FCC's robocall response team issued an alert to consumers regarding a rising threat of robotexts. FCC is updating robotext rules to require mobile phone companies to block likely robotexts, known robotexts. The FCC rules currently prohibit auto-dialed text messages unless you previously gave consent to the recipient. The FCC is partnering with state attorneys generals to combat robocalls and robotexts. And as I alluded earlier, the Federal Trade Commission voted 3-2 on party lines to initiate a rulemaking to expand online privacy protections by targeting online surveillance and lax data security practices by technology companies. That is the August report, which brings us to, unfortunately, we don't have June minutes yet, but we do have the May minutes. And there was an issue with the transposition of that. Angela kindly helped prepare them. So if you have, did anybody have any corrections or edits on those?
Haven't seen them.
They were circulated.
Attached to the meeting.
I got 3 attachments. 2 minutes.
They were, I think there were about, they were about six attachments, and then I sent around a couple of reports. So we had a lot of attachments for this meeting. We've been off for a while. Can I see it?
No,
Okay.
I'll give Gary my proxy.
All right. All right. Do I have a motion? There being no comment, do I have a motion to adopt the May minutes?
Motion.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay, we have a second. All right, all in favor of adopting the May minutes, say aye.
Aye.
And I guess we can't have Jackie's vote there, and I'll say aye. So any abstentions or nays? Okay, it looks like we've adopted the May minutes there, Angela. Thank you. And we'll circulate, I guess, the June minutes as soon as they're ready. Richard, DTS update. I guess you maybe can give us a little, then some changes in personnel there.
Yeah, well, you covered the big one.
Yes.
We do have a new chief information officer. He comes to us from the Naval Executive Service, long time and private, lots of government and experience. Warren joined us.
I'm sorry, but I can't hear you.
Sorry. So Noran joined us a few months back and was named as the CIO officially August 15th was his first day in the chair.
Right, and recirculated that, and I circulated
Yes.
that notice.
We will be recruiting for a deputy chief information officer. That may have gone live. It will go live soon if it hasn't. And so those are the big staffing changes.
I understand that you're also looking for a chief technology officer.
That is likely the deputy.
Deputy, oh,
Yes.
okay.
It
So
gets,
both.
it gets an optional title.
Okay, all right.
So you'll see that live on the job site.
So I think
very
that
soon.
is, I think the CTO position is out. So,
Yes, okay, that is intended to be our deputy.
okay,
So that recruitment will begin or has begun. Otherwise, same folks doing the same things. So as you ask questions, I filter them to the right
Right.
experts and get answers.
and we appreciate you continuing to be our liaison.
Happy to do so.
All right. Any questions for Richard? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I think we are adjourned. See you in September 28th. Thank you, everybody, and we'll try to keep you apprised of
Hey,
other
Frank.
developments as they. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating, and thank you to all those who came in person to give us a physical forum so we can have a virtual policy.
Oh, good work. It's been
Yes.
a long time since we've had a
I know, yes, 2.5 years. So.